Kohberger did everything right. So how has he ended up here? Hello, my silky friends. Hope you had a great New Year. I don't think I've ever done so many videos in 1 week in my life. But yeah, we've had the breaking news, and here are some things that just were flashing out to me. How did this guy do everything right and still get everything wrong? All right, let me go back a lot of years to a time when I went with my family to visit like some outlying family. Does that make sense? Probably not. I don't know. I haven't had enough sleep. But anyway, during that visit, I wasn't familiar with the wife in this situation at all. And, while we were sitting there at the table, she was just cleaning a whole lot. Like, she was making sure, like, I would look and she was, I don't know, she was OCD about the cleaning. If there was any kind of smear, I mean, my God, if it's clean enough, the way my schedule is, I'm like, yeah, well, they know. It looks lived in, okay? I just don't have the time, or I'll be honest with you, I don't care that much if there's a fingerprint on something. But she was very, very OCD about it. And I had this thought in my head, and I didn't mention it to my mom who was with me. I just, how you just file things back there in the old noggin? Well, that's what I did. And probably maybe 2 months later, we find out, now this was a very Christian, very in the box, okay, type of situation, home, marriage, all this kind of stuff. Within 2 months, this woman just up and left. Oh, I just knocked the table almost over. Within 2 months, this woman just up and left her husband, and they found out that she had gone out and started using drugs. And so this is when my mom told me, I said, you know what? I said, that doesn't surprise me. And, she was like this, she was the perfect wife, and I said, it doesn't surprise me because my observations as a human have been when you are really tight, okay, you're really with yourself in one area, it is to make up for another area that is completely out of control. You control this area. I mean, think about people who suffer from anorexia nervosa, okay, or people who purge. Like, they are very, very strict in one area. But oftentimes, not always, don't crucify me, okay? Oftentimes, there is another area of their life that is completely out of control. So this one thing makes them feel like they have it together, if they can stay in those parameters. And possibly, in my opinion, possibly Bryan Kohberger felt the same way. He became vegan. And it said, there's so many reports out there, just, go look it up. He was not only vegan, but OCD about being vegan. He wouldn't even eat a meal that had ever held a piece of meat. Now that is extreme OCD. So, he was very controlled over here, but obviously there were some other issues. Now, what I did is I've been combing through, the internet, as all of us have been doing lately. And I came across a Reddit post from, let me see, this was, and by the way, this is not hypothetical. This is a confirmed friend, confirmed by Reddit, that this is an actual friend of his from grade school. Man, that glare. And his name is, he goes by, I don't know. Let me show you this screenshot. KoBX Elucidator. I don't know. But anyway, he is confirmed, and he was in, I believe he said it was intermediate school, which is somewhere in between primary and what we would call junior high. And he said during this time, Bryan was overweight, and the OP on this says that he, OP, was or is on the autism spectrum. He highly suspects that Bryan could be also. Being autistic or being on that spectrum, you can be very high functioning. But, he said, of course, that's just his supposition. And he gives reasons why. So, here is what he had to say. Basically, they were friends, but Bryan was a little bit, even for this guy, he was a little bit weird, maybe inappropriate, a little bit aggressive. They had gotten into a fight, and so he's answering, people who have asked him tons of questions. And I just want to share a little bit of this with you. These were questions by NeatAd9550. Focus on the second one. It says, you mentioned that some former female classmates have mentioned on Facebook that Bryan asked them out on dates. Did any of the aforementioned women physically resemble any of the Idaho victims? And he replies to the second question, I don't think so. It was pretty generalized who he asked out. Mainly the pretty ones who were out of his league. Okay, now why would he do that? So, up into high school, they weren't friends anymore. Of course, he knew him. But on up into high school, later in his growing up, Bryan did lose, and this guy says he lost weight over 1 to 2 years. So it wasn't one guy said it was over the summer, and this guy says no, it was longer. Anyway, regardless, he lost the weight. And now he has become aggressive and asking out. Here's the problem, okay? He's asking out women who were out of his league. Why would he do that? Well, this is my opinion, okay? Before y'all come after me. Here is the thing. He did everything right, okay? Society says you have to, look a certain way. You have to be a certain way. You have to have an education. He was well on his way to having his doctorate. He had started, he was successful in education thus far. And, he had changed himself. Now, if he's on the autism spectrum, He's an autistic ghost, yeah. That's my other channel. I'm sorry. But if he's on the autism spectrum, then he is not processing things right. Now, this is hypothetical. We don't know if he's ever been diagnosed that way. But here is seemingly a person trying to fit in. So society says you need this and this and this. And he follows these rules, but yet these rules do not work for him because he is still odd and he is still, the one who can't get the girls. Now, why wouldn't you, if you wanted a real relationship, why wouldn't you ask out somebody that you were more comfortable with? Work your way up. You know what I'm saying? Gain confidence, then hit on the ones out of your league. Unless you want to prove, because you've got a lot of built-up hostility, which obviously he did, in all of the other videos I've done that talk about his anger issues. You want to prove to yourself that it's not you, okay? You've done all the things. You still can't get the girl. You purposely, I don't know what's wrong. You purposely ask out people that are going to feed into that belief that sustains now your psychological, it's not me. I fixed all the things that were wrong with me. It's society. It's these type of girls. It's these people. There's something wrong with them, and that feeds that anger. that rejection that, you feel over and over just feeds that anger until it, has to bubble over somewhere. Again, out of control in one area, really hyper control in another. And, I think, in my opinion, he was just doing that, confirming to himself that it was a society problem. It was a, these type of girls problem. It wasn't him. So let me also, y'all have had so many great comments, but there are two that really stand out to me in this video. This is from Reddit. Charismatic 5019 says, he is a man with poor impulse control, narcissistic tendencies, low self-esteem, yet has a grandeur delusion. These victims represented everything he wanted to be, but was not, and he is now learning that his competence is as low as. Yeah, I'm not gonna finish that because I'm not trying to slam him. I mean, obviously there are some issues here, and there is no reason. We all have our opinions about him, but the thing is I'm not here to do that. I agree that he is narcissistic and has a low self-esteem with grandeur delusions. I do not necessarily, y'all may disagree, I don't necessarily think he has low impulse control. Because if he did, obviously he did in this case, or did he? I think it was more planned. I really do. Maybe not planned for very long, the actual victims and stuff, but I think it was planned. And so I would say you would have to have a higher degree of impulse control to sit in a criminal justice class, just be in society, be in college and whatever. Even if you were the weird one, you can't be that out of control, all right? So, as far as we know, he didn't have any problems, with administration, breaking rules in college, unless that comes out later. Okay. This one is Kay from my comments on one of my videos. She says, and this is, by the way, really, really good. I'm wondering if this guy is a true psychopath and because of that feels no emotions, hence all the bizarre, intimate questions on his questionnaire. Yeah, I wondered that too. He wanted to understand what normal people feel when they commit crimes like this. And if you go back to my first video, the one that says breaking news, that everybody's like, it's not breaking news. Well, it was the day I broke it, okay? I don't know what to say about that. But I had a copy of his questionnaire on there, and that's what threw me, is all of the questions about how did you feel? And Kay, I think you are right on the money. It's like he didn't know. He didn't understand. And sometimes it's not psychopath. Sometimes, autistic, and I will say I have some family members. I'm not talking out, my backside. I have some family members who are on the autism spectrum, and I would say, yeah, there are some emotions they do not really comprehend. Now, they're not psychopathic, but they struggle with understanding what other humans feel like. So, yeah, could that be why he wrote that? Absolutely. I think he wants to know. There were probably multiple reasons he did that. But now, here's another one that was awesome. Workerman Name Crow said, I think he planned on answering those questions himself with his own experience before, during, and after the crime to make his project successful. He could have designed his thinking he would get away or not. I understand what you're saying. Did he plan on answering the questions? I think he had already answered a lot of them, in Fantasyland. even before. That's just my opinion, but I think he imagined what it would be like to commit a crime like this and what he would be feeling and thinking at the time. But yes, I think he also designed that. I think he was going to take his own quiz. And then, for your dissertation or your study, whatever you're going to do with it, you don't have to give sources, and you can say this is what a psychopath or a serial killer feels and thinks. I think you're absolutely right. Great points, both of you. Okay, I'm going to cut this video because there's just stuff for days. But I am going to go back to Delphi, and there are some cases y'all have asked me to cover, John Lang being one, a fascinating case. So I may step back from some of the Idaho unless there's just, really good things I need to mention. We're going to focus on some of the other things, but comment below. Tell me what you think. It's okay to think. It's like we get penalized for thinking if we are incorrect. Like, when did that become a thing? We're thinking. We're supposing. Nobody's in court. Nobody's, slandering. Let's not do that. But, it's okay to think, people. In fact, I encourage it. Anyway, I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.